Hi, this is Adam from Small Town Machine Shop, and today we're doing a quick kind of machinery audit, quick inspection of the Cincinnati horizontal mill. I like the size of this machine. It's like perfect for my shop for what I want to do with it. But we have to see if we can get it going before we get too into it. I've been looking it over for the last hour or so, and there are a few things, of course. Some pretty major, some not so major. We'll start with the spindle. Okay, so here's the back gear lever for the spindle. It's 2 speed ranges. I don't know if you can see in there. There's a gear right there and there's a gear right above it. Those are the only 2 spindle speed gears that I have. On these Cincinnati's, for the table feed and the spindle speed, you swap out gears according to this chart. Now I have the 41 and the 46. So with my back gears, I have spindle speeds of 100, 126, 600, or 760. So just the gears I have 4 speeds. Now I can work around that. And I was actually able to find those gears on eBay. They're very distinct, so I was able to identify them. I have no idea what mill this is. If any of you has any idea, the data plate with the model number and all that is gone. I can't find any other things on the castings or anything. It's got a table number that you can't really read. I've only found one picture of this thing online, and that was one for sale in Mexico. So that's not really helpful. So yeah. So we have a few spindle speed issues, which we can work around that. The knee does go up and down manually, so that's good. Actually turns nice and freely. The knee and the table are hydraulically driven. There's a pump on the side. It's got the normal feed screw. It's got the normal Acme screw, and then there's the the spline shaft that's feeding up into this. The engagement handle is missing on the side, so I'll have to do something about that. So we can turn it. We can raise the knee up and down. The table, I cannot get to go left to right. Now, it is hydraulically driven, and I haven't hooked it up to power yet. But in this little box here, where it tells you about the change gears for the table feeds, there are no change gears. It's got this spline shaft, which turns when I turn the spindle, not the spindle, but the input shaft. This turns. This doesn't. There's a hole in this one. So I'm to believe that that is where the gears for the power feed went. So that, of course, is unfortunate, but not a deal breaker yet. It has this lever here with all these hoses coming out of it. It says pull knob out for normal milling, push knob in for climb milling. So I understand it as that is to reverse the direction of the table. Because to reverse the spindle on this, you change there's an idler gear in there. You swap positions of the idler gear if you want to spin left hand or right hand. So that leads me to believe that this stuff's all hydraulic. Now I'll go down in a certain spot. Down you. There we go. And like when you shift this guy over, this thing will bump it out. So leads me to believe that that's the power feed for the left to right as a stop. And then this as I understand, bumps this and reverses it. Because it's a production machine, so it's meant to, it has some features that are automatic. From what little I can gather about this machine. So, the table does move. There's not enough light back there, but there's a little square shaft coming out. I can get it to move about 1 inch, and then it fetches up on whatever power feed stuff's in there. So the table does move. It's not stuck or froze. So worst case scenario there, I could take this stuff off, get this cap off, and maybe find a way to drive it, disconnect a bevel gear or whatever's hooking it to this to power feed it, and put a manual crank on that, and that'd be no problem. The bolt pattern's different for like a normal power feed, like on a Bridgeport. But that at least gives us an option. If we can free it up, I can turn it with that knob. There's a square shaft on it. I can move the table with that knob. So if I free up whatever's keeping it from moving, then I can move back and forth manually, and I have no problem with that. I did check all the gears in there. They all have all their teeth. They're actually in really nice shape. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to open up this guy and see what's in there. Because all the clutch stuff for the table and all that's going to be behind that panel. And see if we can free the table up. Because if we can free the table up to where I can use a hand crank, then it's going to be a usable machine. If it's going to be too much beyond that, then we'll have to see. Yeah, so far I'm encouraged. Of course, I'm an overly positive person sometimes. And of course, we'll get rid of all this electrical stuff. It actually has a safety switch in here back there. So I assume that won't let it run if that switch isn't in. I gotta get into that panel and see where all these wires are coming from. It's like this guy goes in there and then disappears. I can't find where it goes. So yeah, it's, from what I found, it is, and I took the knee, I lubricated it really good, moved it up and down. There's like no play in the knee. And for what little I can move the table. So it seems pretty tight. And I got a lot of questions saying, oh, as you can see, the table does not go in and out. It doesn't. This is meant to be set up for jobs and do specific jobs. So I was getting a lot of questions of the usability of the thing. I cut a lot of keyways. There's 2 motor shops I do all their keyways for. And I got a buddy that has a much, much larger machine shop than I do. And he does a lot of gearbox work. They take off-the-shelf gearboxes, change the shafts and some bearings, and he does them by the 400 or 500 of them a year. They modify them for some kind of brush hog, I believe. He's pretty tight-lipped about it, because from what it seems like, it's not that much work to do it. So what I'm going to do with this machine, for the most part, is that the table ways are good. There's not a lot of movement in the table left to right. And this surface turns out to be okay. I'm going to set this up to pretty much just do keyways. I'll space the cutter off. I have to make some spacers, but those are easy to make. And line it up with two of my most common cutters I use for those jobs, and get them lined up. That way when I got a shaft, I can bring it in here, set it in here, clamp it on that, once this is all cleaned up, mind you, and just raise the table up and feed through, and I'll make a stop to put a dial indicator. And I have cut hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of keyways, clamping the material into here on the ways, if they're in good shape, mind you, and the table doesn't have a lot of side-to-side play, and never had a single issue. And I've done, 3-inch pump shafts for big turbine motors and stuff before. Never had an issue. If your table's good and there's not a lot of slop in it. So that'll be the life of this machine. I really like the footprint of it for what I'm planning to do with it. So yeah, tomorrow we will dig into there and see if we can free up the table. If we can free up the table without butchering it, because I have been able to find some gears for this. Again, if you have any idea what this machine is, any suggestions, I've been looking at hundreds of pictures, and I've only found one that looked like it, that was set up exactly the same. Any info on that would be most appreciated. So yeah, we're ripping this guy tomorrow, and tomorrow will pretty much determine the fate of this machine. This is Adam from Small Town Machine Shop. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.